All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out in this inclement weather, but we have an important and happy announcement to make this afternoon about the crossing guard situation. And I'm also very pleased to be standing here with Chief Racine for his first public appearance in some time. Actually elated to have him back. As I said to the superintendent, not that I'm not always elated to see her, but in this case, in view of what Dan's been through, there's a special significance to it. At the beginning, which seems like a lot longer ago than 7 months, when I was sworn into office on December 30th of 2014, I knew that I faced a serious and difficult fiscal situation. As I tell the story, when I'm around the city, I had actually received a telephone call from a prominent state legislator who said, do you realize what you're doing in running for mayor? The city that you want to lead has some very dire fiscal challenges in front of it. But that's one of the reasons why I did run for mayor, because I wanted to lead the addressing of the fiscal problems. And I was resolved to make the city's fiscal issues an open book. And through the report of the transition team, which preoccupied those 8 members for the first 3 months of the year, I believe we have done that. We have made the city's fiscal situation an open book. And as everybody could see by reading that report, if they chose to do so, and by listening to what I said and members of the transition team said in its aftermath, we faced for this coming fiscal year, which we're now in the middle of, or start of, a $6.5 million shortfall. $3.7 million of that was in the sanitation department. After the transition team's report, and actually leading up to the transition team's report, we worked extremely hard on the 6th floor to find savings. And we did, of over $1 million. But that still left us with a $5.5 million shortfall. And we then deliberated extensively about how to address the rest of that gap. With a limited set of options and a tall task ahead of us, we needed to implement some short-term solutions in order to give us a balanced budget, as we are legally required to do, by July 1st, while we made the larger structural changes later that would get the city back on solid fiscal footing. Every decision we had to make was a difficult one, and each one was carefully scrutinized before any action was taken. One of the toughest choices was to defund the crossing guard positions within our police department for a savings of $181,000. We knew full well that it is essential to have crossing guards on duty at the start and end of the school day to keep our school children safe. And we were fully committed to having the positions back in the budget by the start of the school year, which actually is 4 weeks from today. It was a temporary measure that enabled us to have a balanced budget to begin the fiscal year on July 1st. And we worked diligently for the past 6 weeks to ensure that our crossing guards would be fully operational by September. My staff and I worked closely with Chief Racine and Superintendent Mayor Brown to make sure we had a plan that was adequately funded and well implemented. And I'm very pleased to announce that we're fully prepared for the upcoming school year. There will be crossing guards on duty for the first day of school on September 9th. When we submitted the budget to the City Council at the beginning of June of this year, 2015, we committed at that time, even though we had cut the crossing guards from the budget, we committed to solving the crossing guards issue. I take my public commitments very seriously. And I'm pleased to announce once again that I have followed through on another, with the assistance of Chief Racine and Superintendent Brown. And with that, first Chief Racine and then Superintendent Mayor Brown. Dan? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's very nice to be here. We are exceedingly pleased that we're going to have crossing guards on post September 9th, which comes faster than we think. And we're pleased because public safety is a community responsibility, and we talk about that all the time, Superintendent, the Mayor, myself, and others. And it's not just about reducing crime, reducing the fear of crime. There's many, many facets of public safety. And clearly in my mind, the school crossing guards are critical to the purpose of public safety in the mornings in the afternoon. So I'm very, very pleased. The mayor was gracious enough to refund the budget about $225,000 for new hires. Those new hires cannot be hired until the academy is open, which is probably sometime after January. That allows some flexibility with that $225,000. So we're able to work out the funding for the school crossing guards with that money. So we're pleased that we could work that out. We're pleased the crossing guards will be on post on September 9th. And we're very, very pleased that public safety will continue at our schools in Fall River, Massachusetts. They say imitation is the best form of flattery. In the Bedford School Department has been calling me asking about our program, and I was somewhat taken aback when I had to tell them we might get rid of our program. So it's very pleasing for me to say now that our program is going to continue fully funded for this coming school year. So thank you both, and we look forward to a safe school year.
Thank you very much, Chief. Superintendent O'Brien.
Thank you. And I want to express our deepest gratitude on behalf of Fall River Public Schools to Mayor Sutter and to Chief Racine for reinstating our school crossing guards. I think it's important to note that those crossing guards, the budget for those crossing guards lives outside of the school department budget. And so through the efforts of both the chief and the mayor, they were able to identify funds that would ensure the safety of our students. We always say to our parents and to the community, the safety of our students and staff is our first priority in all matters. The crossing guards establish that safe journey to school, as well as enable our initiatives such as the walking school bus to continue, so we can continue to promote physical activity on behalf of our students. So again, thank you to the mayor and chief for ensuring the safety and well-being of our students.
Any questions? Yes, hi.
Mayor, how many openings do you have? Are there openings now, and how might people apply if they're interested?
I think the person who's best equipped to answer that question would be the chief, so I'll turn that one over to him.
Thank you for the question. We have about 26 people right now ready to go. That can fluctuate from 26 to low 30, so there are some openings. They can contact the Fall River Police Department at 508-676-8511, and we'll walk them through that process. So there are a few openings. Thank you.
And the walking school bus, Superintendent, that really goes hand in hand with this, to have so many children crossing the road, or, right? I mean, it's crucial.
It certainly does. The walking school bus encourages students to walk to school with supervision, but the crossing guards are a key component of that, again, so that parents and others can feel confident that their child will be supervised and will be able to cross the street with that supervision and additional safety measure with the school crossing guard. So we do want to promote as much physical activity as possible with our students, and the walking school bus initiative that's taking place throughout the district, and we want to expand, again, is closely connected to having crossing guards in place.
Thank you.
Another topic for the superintendent. Any word on the MSBA situation regarding a New Durfee?
We met with the Massachusetts School Building Authority probably about 2.5 weeks ago to review our enrollment projections for New Durfee High School. And the next step in the process is some communication from them regarding an appropriation that will need to be made by the City Council with the mayor's recommendation to conduct a feasibility study.
One more,
Yes.
back on the crossing guards. What did New Bedford like about our program, and how did they hear about it, Chief? What were they so enthusiastic about?
The school department person that called me, Peter Cabral, said that he lives in the area and he has seen the Fall River School crossing guards and knows that we've had them for years. I suspect we've had them for 30 years or better. And I've been here 29 years, starting next month, and they've been here as long as I've been here. I suspect longer than that, so it's a good program. It's something that we take very seriously. I think they're looking to replicate that in New Bedford, which again I think is flattering to us.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you had a lot of difficult cuts that you had to make. Where was this sort of in the pecking order there?
I would say it was in the pecking order with respect to degree of difficulty.
Yes.
I would say it was close to the top. The hardest decision was probably the sanitation fund fee, in view of how spirited the debate is about our trash collection in Fall River. That was probably at the top in terms of degree of difficulty, but as I have said many times, Ultimately, I thought I was faced with two choices on that. And one was the drastic cuts to police, fire, Department of Community Maintenance, and the other was the sanitation fund fee. But in terms of decisions of not quite the same financial magnitude, that was a $3.7 million decision. This was a $200,000 decision. But I knew that this would not be well received. However, at the same time that I made the decision with respect to submitting a balanced budget, I was absolutely committed to solving the problem by the start of the school year. That's why this is such a positive day in my view, and that's why I asked for a press conference instead of just sending out a press release. And I think that this also exemplifies the extremely good, close, productive working relationship I have with these two department heads, the superintendent of schools and the chief of police. We worked closely together to make this happen. So this is a proud day for myself and I think a very good day for the city.
It had to weigh on you, I assume, a little bit too. God forbid there was some sort of accident that would have been a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking it.
That is something that issue of injuries to kids, to anybody, weighs on me on a daily basis. And I've spoken to the superintendent and the chief about this. This issue came up quite actively during the snowstorms with respect to opening schools. And I know that both of these two individuals, and it's one of the reasons why I enjoy working with them so much and why I think we have a real kinship, is that they literally are actively thinking about the safety of the kids on a daily basis. I think that's a very good situation for the city. Hi, Joe.
Hi there.
How are you?
This
I knew
might
you were
be,
coming with a question.
Might be for the superintendent.
Okay.
How many children, students do you think this affects now, as far as the crossing guards coming back and children being safe? Just a ballpark figure about how many kids you think this affects.
I would say, off the top of my head, Joe, I'd want to check on the figures that I gave you, but we're probably talking anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000 students. That's not to say all of those students walk, but based on the number of students we provide bus transportation versus, but again, with initiatives such as our walking school bus, we want to encourage students who live within proximity of the school to walk safely to school rather than to, obviously have to get a ride with their parents. If we can ensure some sort of safe, journey to school through that kind of program, we certainly want to be able to do that. I think, when I started in Fall River over 10 years ago, we had 30 plus schools across the city, and you lived very close to your school, and it was in a few blocks to walk to school. Obviously, we've consolidated through what Alan had mentioned, through the Mass School Building Authority, these very large schools, particularly elementary schools that hold 700 or 800 students. So we've lost those small neighborhood feel to the school. And again, the larger elementary schools may be farther away, but again, we think we can, through those kinds of initiatives, encourage walking to school. So I think it has the potential to impact thousands and thousands of students. How many walk versus get a ride through their parent or other sort of transportation, I can't tell you as I stand here today.
Thank you very much.
Do you know how many days, approximately, school days you sort of went without having the crossing guard?
None.
None.
Zero. This occurred after school was out. We had crossing guards through the end of the school year. The mayor had made a commitment to me that he would find a way to be sure that when we opened the school year in September that we would have crossing guards in place, and here we are today, thankfully.
Yes.
Yeah, for you.
Okay.
Is this the situation where you robbed Peter to pay Paul? Is there a line item that has now been depleted, and could you identify that, if so?
Well, we made a series of decisions just before the final vote on the budget. I remember one of those was cutting the law department from $580,000 to $500,000, but at the time, and that's an area of expertise for myself, so having spent 30 years as a lawyer, so I was confident that we could manage a $500,000 budget as opposed to a $580,000 budget. There were a series of about 4 or 5 decisions like that that ensured that we were going to be able to fully fund the police department and the fire department for at least fully fund in comparison to fiscal 14. So with that, the ball then went into Chief Racine's court. He can probably tell you exactly how he did his juggling in order to make sure that we were going to be able to keep this program.
Well, for this fiscal year, which is obviously the critical decision, the delaying of the officer is being hired by the academy starting after January. That's where the money is freed up.
Okay.
Obviously, a supplemental could be done for next year, or the same circumstances could apply next year as well. We don't know. So for this fiscal year, we're funded.
All right, so you're taking it year by year at this point?
I can't hire anybody until after January anyhow, so the money is available to pay for the crossing guards. So that's where the money's coming from. It could be a supplemental, or there could be a line item next year.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.